There we go. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Put that. Oh, wait, you can just here. Share. All right. So today we're just going to be talking about storyboarding and then just some of our future deadlines. And I think everybody can hear me just fine. But yeah, so before I get started, I did want to, oh, this is in the wrong spot. Volume was coming out in the wrong spot. Anyway, I did want to at least cover the new grading system should you choose to use it. As per our email from Damp House the other day, if you're not too super happy with your grade and are worried about how it's going to impact your GPA, you can do like a credit non-credit system that you'll get a choice of at the end of the semester. So you can just have like a pass or fail sort of thing going on that has no impact to your GPA. That's if you want to. If you have a good grade, it's not anything to consider, but it's just something that they have going on for all courses, so I just thought I'd mention it. So having said that, we'll move on to what we got going on today, which is multimodality, storyboarding, just getting us ready for the next part of this project. Just like a lot of people had their rough draft put in for peer review. So I think I would at least have a few upcoming due dates. So we have the rough draft for me this weekend by midnight on Saturday. And then next Wednesday, I have us doing multimodal outline peer review. I'm not too sure how well it's going to work, so I may change that. Considering it's just like an outline, how are you going to really grade an outline or at least give feedback on one when you don't know how these projects are going to look in the end. So we'll see what happens with that. And then the polished draft of the paper is due next Saturday by midnight again, along with your reflection. And then the 27th and 29th, which is a big jump because we were supposed to have some lab time to do some stuff on computers, but we don't have that now. The 27th and 29th, so to get ready for our presentations, which will just be your multimodal project, just a sort of presentation over what you've done to accompany your paper, like how does this multimodal project add to your what you've got going on, how does it address a different audience, how does it really make your whole project better. And then for the 4th and 6th final portfolio submissions, which is just everything you've done throughout the semester, just compiled into one thing. An example of that, I had to do one for one of my classes. You won't do a table of contents or anything, but it's just pretty much putting all your stuff in one place so that others can go in and look at everything you've accomplished throughout the semester. So moving on, what is storyboarding? Well, it's the use of sequenced illustrated images to visually conceptualize aspects of filming before production of a video. In short, it's a sort of draft for a video. It has other uses and can also be used as a way to find key points of frame within certain images. From our reading, someone was tasked with using storyboarding to describe how an MRI machine works. Yawn, sorry. So from a quote from the reading, so think of storyboarding like a comic. It hits the highlights of a story, the key points or moments, and designs them very deliberately using visuals and linguistic representations of sound. I'll go over the deadlines again at the end of the slides, so if you missed them just a moment ago, I'll cover them again, and I'll also start putting the deadlines into my Blackboard announcements because I'm using all of that space to tell you things anyway, so I might as well use it to at least tell you about upcoming deadlines. Oh, now I can't click in. So many people joining. Do speak so quickly. So with storyboarding, an example that they use in the reading as well is the elevator pitch, which if you don't know, an elevator pitch is just you have the length of an elevator ride to explain something or pitch something to try to sell it. So you really have to be very concise with this. So with their example of it, you have this, you have sounds, images, something like that. I was originally going to have us do some storyboarding and get us ready for our multimodal projects. But since we don't have any class time to like work on this, I at least want to explain the concept in case you want to use it when drafting your outline for how your presentation is going to work over your multimodal components of your project. And every time I click out, I can't do this. So as description, when Stephanie needed help creating a storyboard for MRI instructions, her tutor discussed with Stephanie the following. They discussed what visuals should go into the frames in order to match her key points, what kind of shot to use, what language to incorporate to clarify the story, and what audio would go best alongside the instructions. So a big part of this are the 6 design elements of meaning making, which in this case, and from our reading, there's a linguistic meaning, which is the meaning of the text, the visual meaning, the meaning of the visuals, audio meaning, the meaning of sound, narration, and music, gestural meaning, the meaning of gestures or hand, arm, and body movements, which you can tell I do a lot of. Spatial meaning, so the meaning of placement, perspective, grouping, or angles. Multimodal meaning how each of these things work together to provide a greater meaning. So it's a lot of meaning. So think of at least each of these as different modes. So text, visuals, sound. And when you're making a multimodal project, you're just combining all of these elements into one thing in order to be as effective as possible when covering certain topics. Oh, that's right, I can't click in when somebody joins. So just for a little fun, I decided to make my own sort of storyboard for when I do film in front of like the bookshelves in my wife's office. So first, I need a filming location with plenty of light and a lot of stuff to look at. My wife opts works for this. As an overhead light, and I can use my little standing lamp as like a recording station. Then I have a wonderful drawing of me as a potato standing in front of the camera pointing down at me so that I can have plenty of room to gesture. And then my alternative mode of explaining things in my office, which I can do to add in extra details. There's a slight echo even with the padding I have in my walls in certain locations. But so if you want an idea of what you could do for storyboarding, this is a terrible example of that. My drawing skills, especially on the computer, are awful. But if you were trying to outline certain key scenes or points that you're trying to make in whatever your multimodal project is going to be, because we will be doing as best we can presentations through our programs that we use. It's a weird thing to have to prepare for. It's one thing to present in front of a class because it's kind of a standard way of engaging with each other. But then you have this sort of distance that you get no visual feedback from the people you're talking to. So it's kind of a whole lot to consider. So as long as you're kind of well prepared, I guess, you don't have to think about it too much. But so like how can you use it? So in short, it's about trying to identify the most important moments of something and figuring/planning out how to best present those moments for maximum impact. It has a link to the website, which has these storyboarding templates. It has example video projects as well, things to consider when using lighting, like 3-point lighting, to making sure everything's completely visible. Some tips about filmmaking, and then this needs to get on my way so I can click other tabs. And then you have like example posters and designs that you can use to try to talk about your data, although this has a lot of text, so it's not really that accessible, although it does have a lot of information. So it's really just trying to balance how much information versus how much text you need to get your point across. Too much text, nobody's going to want to like look at it because there's a lot going on. Not enough, and you're not being informative enough as well. So just a few examples, and then other like PowerPoints and Prezis that you can use to sort of get an idea of what other students have done when making these sort of multimodal projects. And then where's my other link back? Here it is. So yeah, those for example. I don't have a chat box this time. I certainly hope nobody's saying anything in the chat. Ew. Well, I'll look later. Anyway, so why should you use it? Because storyboards help students organize, analyze, and create while simultaneously helping them concentrate on multiple modes of communication. Diverse fields from English and film to science, engineering can benefit from the structure. So it's not just something that's used strictly in English courses. The MRI example was a STEM course where the person had to do this. So it does have some weird uses as well. When it's assigned, it's kind of strange. Um, they do have like templates in this website as well. Like I said, I'm not making you do this, but if you wanted to get an idea of just things, if you need to plot it out to really get your presentation ideas in order and what you're going to be doing, you can use that if it would really help you to draw out and describe what needs to be going on in key scenes of your presentation, wherever your project turns out to be. So what else did you take into consideration? So in preparation for a video, students should consider the limitations they face in creating the final video while designing the storyboard. Like, don't try to put things in your presentation that you can't possibly achieve reasonably. You may not have a good way of sharing your audio, or you may not be able to film as well as you can. You may just have use of your phones. So it's going to be really difficult to determine what you want to do within your limitations. Really, really yawning. So how does this help with the final presentation? Oh gosh. So just as with your multimodal project, just as your multimodal project should complement your paper, whether you're doing an infographic, some type of chart, surveys that compile data, a poster with a letter, a brochure, a video, a prezi, or even just a standard presentation with slides, you'll have to take into consideration how your audio and visual elements work together. So to this end, how are you going to keep your audience invested in what you were saying? Remember, you have like 5 to 8 minutes for your presentation time. So how are you going to fill this out? How many different things do you need your viewers to look at? Do you have any sort of performance anxiety? How are you going to work around this? And to expand on this point further, could you record something in advance until you are sure your speech isn't filled with too many stutters, ums, or uhs? Could you record your voice into some slides of a PowerPoint and go through your slides when you have control of the Zoom room, if we're still using Zoom at that point? Will you just make some notes and try to wing it? And what would be a risk that could reward you with a better grade? So it's not just doing what is easiest, it's doing what is both visually appealing and I guess mentally stimulating. Like, your project should at least have something that engages with your audience and shouldn't just be, I guess, boring to go over or uninteresting to look at, because it could really impact how well you come across with your data. Maybe I'm doing a lot of ums myself. Yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. I can't do that. So, man, that was 16 points on my slide. Crap. So yeah, so that's just a lot of things to consider for the upcoming project of this. With the papers, for what I've seen in the rough draft so far, everybody seems to be getting it a lot better with creating your own argument, as long as you are instituting some sort of change that should be taken into consideration, like what needs to, like, it's one thing to be talking about something that's wrong with a group that you were a part of, but as long as you're instituting some type of change that needs to happen, why it needs to happen, it's really the biggest point behind the paper. And what I've seen from the rough drafts I've glanced at, everybody seems to have gotten that part in order. We're still coming in. So yeah, so those are just things to consider with the essay portion, and then migrating to this multimodal portion. So no, it doesn't have to be a video. It doesn't, I try to push the video, but I realize not everybody wants to do that. But you will still have to do some form of presentation. So you'll still have to create something multimodal, and take it over to the Zoom room and then present it. Now, if you are doing this recording in advance, I can just play the video for everybody, or you can play the video for everybody if I give you control of sharing your screen with all of us. So it's just whatever works for you. You will, if you're presenting, especially since we're doing this online, you should probably practice what you're going to be doing, only because you don't know how the audio is going to sound to others if you are recording with your phone or just a headset. And it's just like you gotta get used to the movements that you need to make in order to be effective. And man, I don't know how I can make like 17 slides and just go right through them while I'm speaking quickly. I need to slow down a lot of times. But like I said, I will at least bring up the upcoming due dates one more time. So like I said, Saturday, rough draft for me. Um, I'll try to go over these as quickly as possible, more quickly than I graded the last batch of papers. I tried to take those like 3 or 4 at a time. I still haven't put those grades on Blackboard because I want to make sure you're looking at those comments. Um, and if you do look on Blackboard and your grade doesn't seem right, you can ask me about it, and I can then go into Blackboard and put your paper on there if you're curious about what your grade is with the paper. But I really did want to encourage others to at least look at what I've been saying in a paper so I don't see the same mistakes come up in the next paper, because I did correct some things that came up in essay 1 that have come up again in essay 2. And I just want to make sure everything's being gone over. Anyway, so then I have planned for next Wednesday the multimodal outline peer review. We may just do that together and spend some time discussing the different types of projects that people are planning to do as a group rather than you sharing it with each other. There is some hesitancy to like share all these Google Docs with one another. And I feel like being in the room together while we're discussing each person's ideas where they can go with it might help. But we'll see what everybody feels about that. And then so next Saturday would be the polished draft of your paper version with the reflection on it. And then you're not really turning in your multimodal project to me. You're going to be presenting that on either the 27th or the 29th. We'll work together on a schedule to see who goes on what day, since these are all 5 to 8 minute presentations. 2 days should cover it, but we'll see. If it has to go into that Friday as well, then we will do that just to make sure we're all giving each other enough time on these presentations and so on. And then, like I said, on the 4th and 6th, you're doing your final portfolio submissions. You're also meeting with me over these. I joined the room too early, so now it's like, no, we're good. That's why I should join until closer to the class time. Anyway, I'll be meeting with you all individually. We don't have to schedule these during class time because I realize everybody's on a different sleeping schedule. I will say nothing from like 7 to 9 in the morning because that's way too early. But any other time of the day up until like, we'll say 2 a.m. So anything from like 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. is acceptable for me to work within. I don't know what everybody's time is right now. So on the 4th and 6th, we will be trying to have these individual meetings so that I can talk about where you're going. You can show me your portfolio. I can make sure everything is there. I'll upload a list of what should be in your portfolios. In the upcoming weeks, I will be having like a point value to saying like you have a revised version of this paper, like 20 points, with a reflection, 10 points, just stuff like that. Just make sure everything is compiled where it needs to be. If you have rough drafts, please be sure to include those, since as long as you have those versions. If you did a Google Doc, at least save your previous versions. You can make a new copy of that. Excuse me. So that's what we got going on. Granted that we're doing this all online, I feel like I'm teaching more so toward the papers than giving general information. We'll try to see what else we can come up with to at least make this a little more engaging, but we'll see. It's a lot to deal with. So with that, does anybody have any questions over the due dates or anything that's coming up? Oh. Yeah, so if you have a question, this is your chance to at least kind of like unmute your mic. You can say something, interrupt me. I don't care. I don't see anything. For some reason, I can't see the chat today. So I must have done something incredibly wrong. But if you do have a question, please let me know, and I'll see if I can figure out where the heck. I'm looking at my other monitor right now. I don't know what happened to the chat. I don't know if anybody's typed anything into the chat anyway.
What are the final portfolio, Jesus, I can't talk today, submissions?
Oh, okay. So final portfolio, I have a bit of a example of that for my other class. You don't have to do a table of contents or anything, but it's pretty much just compiling everything you've done this semester and including it in one document. So like rough drafts, final drafts, reflections. So that's what that's going to be. So you're just going to be compiling everything you've done throughout the semester into one document. This is mine from a different class that I have to submit this to. Yours is not going to be 107 pages like mine is, but it is just like your revised drafts, like things you've done and edited. You're really just going to be meeting with me and making a case that you've done some certain revisions. I shouldn't leave these are think aloud strategies, and I hate them. Just going to be making some leaps in logic, or just saying like you've taken these mistakes in the past and you've addressed them in the future. There is also supposed to be one final reflection overall that will be included in your portfolio, and I didn't include that the due date because I just remembered it. But we'll go over that as well. Just your overall opinions. Oh, there is a chat. Where it is? Okay. Okay, so 2 questions. So yeah, did that answer your question, Bailey? With what the portfolio is?
Yes, and I'm sure we'll be going over it too closer to time, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I love repeating myself, so I'll go over it again. So with the multimodal outline peer review. Oh, okay. Considering you have a multimodal project that you're going to be presenting on, the peer review is supposed to be just you having an outline of like you're going to be making a video covering this, or you're going to make an infographic with these statistics in it. Granted, I don't think having a peer review of that is really going to help. So like I said, for that day, we'll probably just meet together and go over all of our ideas so we can make sure that they're going in the right direction. So that will be our more personal conversation with all of us as a group about what's acceptable, what's going in the right direction. But this is just to help you with your presentation on the 27th and 29th. You're just outlining what you're going to be doing on that day, what you're going to be presenting, what you've done to expand upon your paper. And then for the reflections, you're going to be doing a reflection for the paper version of this. And then with the portfolio submissions, you're going to have a bit of like a longer reflection of the whole process of the class, just your overall opinions of like what you've worked through, how you interacted with each project, and so on. So there will be a reflection there, but it's just mostly an overall reflection of what you've had to do with each of your papers for the class and how you worked with that. So hopefully that answers both of those questions well. So do we have any other questions from anybody about things coming up, things we're not entirely understanding just yet? Okay, so okay, so nobody seems to have any questions. So be sure if I've gone over, well, yeah, because I have gone over everybody's. When I've gone over your second essay, be sure to look at those comments. If I've left the feedback saying that there's something that needs to be fixed, please let me know when that's been done. And so if you have any other questions, email me. I'll respond as quickly as I can. I really don't mind sending you long emails in response. If anybody needs the link to these example projects for like video projects, or I hate the stupid tab coming up in my way, PowerPoints and Prezis, or even like these little graphs that are available on this multimodalwritingcenter.org website, let me know. Otherwise, that's the link to that. So if you don't have any other questions, I'm running out of time because I did join this too early, so I will have to at least get a subscription to Zoom if I want to continue this. But if I want to go on for longer than 40 minutes, I just need to remember I should join as close to 11 as possible so I keep my entire process. So if you don't have any other questions, you're free to go. Thank you so much for coming in. Oh, and what did I talk about in the beginning? Okay, so the beginning, I went over due dates again. I covered what is storyboarding. I don't know which part of that you missed, but I will be putting these slides up on the Blackboard. This does save a video of this whole process. I'll put that on YouTube as well. I forgot when I accepted you to come into the room, so don't exactly remember what you missed. Actually, I think you came in right when I was saying this quote. Okay, yeah, you didn't miss that much. Okay, great. So yeah, so then that's everything I have. I have to speak slower and have to join later. But other than that, it was great to see all your little boxes come up on my other monitor. And then, oh yeah, and then with Friday, I'll just record this in advance so you can view it on your own time. Unless you do enjoy coming in at our specific meeting time, then I'll just come back in at 11 and speak with you all. Although, yeah, so it can go either way. I prefer to record this one in advance so that I can at least have one meeting time with us all together, and then one thing recorded in advance, and then one thing that's kind of up in the air. It could be meeting time, it could be a project. I'm not too sure yet. My opinion of it changes from day to day. But other than that, yeah. So you all have a wonderful day. You know, if you have any questions, like I said, thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay. Sharing. And the